Good day, and welcome to the Future of Integration. I'm Hanu Breitenbach, Director and Founder of .colab, and I'm thrilled to introduce you to our flagship product, .integrate. Imagine if integrating your client's systems wasn't the time-consuming, expensive headache you've come to expect. What if you could streamline it, making it faster, cheaper, and entirely in-house, without a constant reliance on developers? Let's bring this to life with a real-world example. Picture Trevor's Rusks, an online rusk provider that delivers tasty treats right to your doorstep. Now, behind the scenes, Trevor's Rusks is part of a larger family called Lion Brands. Lion Brands manufactures the product for on-sale. Here's where the challenge begins. Trevor's Rusks operates on Sage 200, while Lion Brands runs on Sage 300. This means every order, every sale, every invoice, and every purchase order must be managed across two separate systems, a process that's as complex as it sounds. Enter intercompany integration, a term that has made many scratch their heads at one point or another. Today, I'm going to show you how .integrate transforms that chaos into a seamless, automated process, empowering your consultants to manage even the most complex integration projects in-house. Envision this. A customer places an order on Trevor's Rusk's website. That single action triggers a cascade of behind-the-scenes tasks. In Trevor's Rusk's Sage 200 system, a sales order is generated, and the customer immediately receives an order number. But the process doesn't stop there, because Trevor's Rusks needs to order stock from Lion Brands to on-sale. A purchase order is then created in Sage 200, while Lion Brands, running on Sage 300, must simultaneously process a corresponding sales order, check stock, manage inventory transfers, and for the purpose of this demonstration, Lion Brands manufactures in one warehouse and only ships out of another. So inventory transfer will have to take place automatically. And then take care of shipment and invoice. In Trevor's Rusk system, a receipt and invoice are then generated. Shipment and invoice is arranged and a tracking number sent to the customer. This isn't just a stack of paperwork. It's a complex, time-consuming process that demands meticulous attention at every step. Now think about the bigger picture. These custom integrations often require outsourced developers or specialized teams to bridge the gap. This not only drives up costs, but also slows down your ability to adapt to market changes. Every delay means missed opportunities, and every dependency on external developers reduces your control over your client's integration strategy. For consulting firms like yours, these challenges lead to reduced efficiency, frustrated clients, higher costs, and a significant drain on your resources. In today's competitive landscape, such inefficiencies simply can't be afforded. You need a solution that cuts through the complexity, one that empowers you to deliver faster, more reliable integrations in-house. And that's exactly why we created .integrate. Let me tell you a little more about .integrate. It's an automated integration platform that seamlessly connects the entire Sage ecosystem and much more. With .integrate, your Sage products not only talk to each other, but also connect effortlessly with any third-party or niche software your clients rely on. In essence, it connects any software with any software. There are virtually no restrictions. In most cases, your in-house consultants, armed with just basic SQL knowledge, can set up these integrations themselves. The only time you might need developer assistance is when a third-party or custom application requires specialized API work to pull data. Otherwise, .integrate puts you in control. Because .integrate is built on a standardized platform that plays well with any software, the time spent on integration projects is effectively cut in half. This means you can deliver a complete, streamlined solution to your clients much faster and at a significantly lower cost than if you were to build custom integrations from scratch. Also, by choosing .integrate, you also open the door to a host of financial benefits. You earn yearly rebates on license fees. Your consulting revenue will increase as your team takes charge of implementation, eliminating the need for expensive outsourced developers. Client satisfaction will soar because you'll consistently deliver high-quality outcomes across all client sites. With full control over project timelines and rollouts, you can ensure a smooth, efficient integration process every time. Let's talk efficiency. Thanks to seamless machine-to-machine integration, your clients will experience optimized, automated processes that eliminate clunky file transfers and manual workarounds. Finally, .integrate future-proofs your integrations. As your clients' businesses evolve, upgrading or expanding the integration is as simple as a quick tweak. No complete overhaul required. In short, .integrate isn't just about streamlining integrations, it's about transforming them into a strategic advantage for you as business partners. Now that you've seen how .integrate can transform integration challenges into a strategic advantage, let's see it in action. Picture this. A customer visits Trevor's Rusks online shop and places an order for their favorite rusks. As soon as the order is submitted, .integrate springs into action behind the scenes. In just a moment, our demo video will take you through the entire journey from the creation of sales and purchase orders in the respective Sage systems to the warehouse transfer and finally to the shipment process. You'll witness how every step is automated seamlessly without any manual intervention. Don't blink or you'll miss it. Did you see that? Let's slow it down. Remember, don't blink. Seven transactions, three separate systems with one seamless integration. All in less time than it took for this balloon to pop. Okay. Now let's move over to a real live demo so we can show you exactly how the product functions. So as we mentioned, from Trevor's side, he will place an order online from his online shop. And let's say Trevor orders some buttermilk rusks. He'll add it to his cart and he'll complete the order. As soon as the order has been completed, in 200, a sales order would have been generated. As you can see, the order has now come in at a cost of 900 Rand. At the same time, in the 200 system, a purchase order was generated at a lower cost to account for the on-sale. As you can see here, the order was raised against Lion Brands at a value of 800 Rand. Okay, let's move over to 300. In 300, once again, we'll see an order was done with a shipment and an invoice already. We'll have a look at those now. But as we mentioned, from here we can also see from the reference, we'll be able to see a golden thread. So whenever we set up integrations, we always try to keep a golden thread between all the transactions so that we can have a full audit trail of each transaction and see where they came from. All right, before we have a look at the shipment and invoice, let's go ahead and have a look at that transfer that needed to happen to move stock. So as mentioned in Lion Brands, they manufacture in one warehouse and then sell out of the main store. And as we can see, that transaction happened at the same time. Okay, we'll close that and then go and have a look at the shipment and invoice. Okay, as we can see, the shipment has been completed along with the invoice number. So let's have a look at that invoice, and you'll notice it's invoice 389. All right, so Trevor can now go over onto Sage 200, and we can see that that invoice was matched to that same purchase order. Okay. All right, after that integration has then taken place, email will be sent out to the customer, giving them the order number along with any tracking number. Okay, let's go into .integrate itself. Right, as you can see, this is the .integrate interface. For this, we're going to run through some of these options. So whenever we look at integration, there's always three portions that fit into an integration. The first thing we need to know is where we're getting data from. So how are we getting data into .integrate? So as mentioned, .integrate has its own SQL database, and we pull data into the SQL database. That brings us to the next step. So the second portion that's always part of an integration implementation is if any of that data that we get in needs to be massaged or manipulated or changed or mapped to anything. And if there is a case that needs to happen, that will then happen with inside .integrate as well. And .integrate is written on a SQL environment. So anyone with SQL understanding and who knows how to write simple SQL select statements will be able to set up integrations themselves. And then lastly is the integration of each transaction. Okay, so we're just going to take you through how we set up .integrate from a consulting perspective. So for example, let's start off with system settings. Okay, so under system settings, as I mentioned, this is the first leg that we will require from a integration perspective. This is how we're going to get data into .integrate. Now, there's a few ways to set this up. In our case, we've set it up as a local data. So that would mean we have a database that's residing on the same SQL server that .integrate is sitting on, and we can run triggers on that to get the data from that SQL database directly into .integrate, which is a local import type. We do, however, have the functionality to set up separate ones. So we can do like we have a REST layer that we have that we can apply across .integrate, giving any third-party product or Sage an additional REST layer that third-party products can interact with. The nice thing about .integrate is in the past, whenever you had to set up a REST API point, what you would have to do is you would have to build a database table that matches the JSON object or the XML object that you would receive from the third party. What we've done with .integrate is we consume that JSON object and we then convert it into a database structure automatically. So as soon as someone sends us the first API call with a JSON object attached to it, we consume that, and out of that, we identify how the database structure will have to be for the data that we are going to receive, and we then create all the tables with the subtables and their parenting IDs and build a database structure regarding that. Then some of the other ways, some of the other options we have as well is we can set up an import file where we can take an Excel file or a CSV file or any type of physical file and import that. For that, we'll have to set up some mappings. And then obviously we can also set up an API call, which is basically a reverse of the .rest. That is where we want .integrate to pull a third-party product and retrieve data from a third-party product in that case. So for example, we have a customer that is running their franchising or franchisor. So they have like 5 different franchises that they manage. And their problem was that all their franchises run off of separate ERP systems. So for example, you would have one of the smaller ones is running 0, one of them is running 300, one of them is running 200. And their challenge was they needed to be able to report and integrate on one specific system from a company overview perspective. So what we did for them is we set up all the integration points. Some of them were local database, some of them we import files, some of them were an API where we actually go and fetch data from Xero, for example. And then based off of that, we would then pull that and consolidate it into one database, do the data massaging, and prep the data for integration, and then we would do the integration from there. All right, so that's how we get data in. Then our next function is our local connections. We're going to have a look at this quickly. So from local connections, this is basically where we set up how do we connect to these third-party applications or these separate ERPs. So for example, we have set up a Sage 200 here with everything that's needed from an integration perspective to Sage 200. So we give it a description, we give the server information, which database it's looking at, what's the ERP version, and for 200, obviously, we need to know what the common database name is. If we look at a 300 environment, 300, we don't really need to know what the common database name is, but we need to know the company ID, we need to know what version we're working on. So this is basically how we tell .integrate where it should integrate to. Okay, right. And then the last one is our integration points. Okay, these are now all the separate integrations that we want to run. So obviously we'll give it a code. We'll then select which connection it needs to link to. So this is basically saying when this integration runs, where do we want this integration to integrate to? Where do we want this step to integrate to? Do we want it to run to which connection? Okay, obviously we'll give it a description. Okay, then we've got a query. I'm going to get back to the query now. Next one is the module. So this is basically where we're saying what type of transaction do we want to create in Travis Rusks, for example. From here, we can see we've got the sales order set up. So obviously this is saying we want to create a sales order in Travis Rusks Sage 200 Evolution. Okay. Then let's have a look at the query. So basically how .integrate functions is you would write a select query that would select the data that we've consumed, and you would then just name the select statement. The column of the data that you're selecting would just have to be the same column name of the database where you would want to integrate it to. So for example, if we wanted to write item number into 300's database, we all know 300's item number field in sales order is called item NO. So I would then select whichever column I'm using for the item number, and I will say as item NO. What .integrate then does is it goes and runs this query and maps the data based off of what the column name is. So if the column name is the same as what the column name is in the end product that you want to integrate to, we then do that mapping automatically inside of our DLLs, and then send that through on the integration. Okay. Then the last thing we have is the post-integration query, and this is basically where we get automation in this product. So once an integration has happened, we can then run a post-integration query to say, after this integration has happened, what should it do then? We then wanted to run a different query that maybe kicks off the next integration, like we did in this instance. This can also be used for notifications. So let's say, for example, after we've done the last integration, we can then have a post-integration query that kicks off the mail that needs to be sent out. Okay, so that's integration points. Okay, then we've got service schedules. So for service schedules, this is where we can set up how often we want the integration to run. And how often do we want the import to run? So when we look at integration schedules, there is quite a few options we have. So we can do it daily or hourly or weekly or minutely or seconds. So for example, integration, we might set up in this demo environment, we set it up to run every 1 second. So basically what the integration does is it checks every 1 second if there is something to integrate. And if there is something to integrate, it will then have that integrate as well. A question we get quite often is how do we handle it if there's more than one integration that needs to take place? So what we've done with .integrate is, yes, every 1 second the service will check if there is anything to integrate. but also further than that, it then runs on its own stream. So you can have multiple integrations running at the same time. That's not a problem from our side. Usually for most customers, we'll probably set this to like a 30-second interval, but we can go to a 1-second interval. Yeah, and then obviously we've got schedules for how often do we want to import new data or check for new data. Okay, so this is currently our current release. We're also looking at doing a new release. Will be coming out closer to winter. We're looking at like June, July-ish. And part of that, some of the enhancements we're looking for in that is that we can set up a custom schedule, so we can have a query that runs, that checks and validates certain information, and if we return a true value, then it will run the integration. All right. Okay, next we've got our global settings. So this is basically just what's our database connection to .integrate itself and how we set up our notification settings that can be used for integration purposes. Okay. All right, next we've got the license management. This is basically just where we would then set up or install the license key. How .integrate functions is when you purchase the product, it comes core with 5 integrations. So each integration point that is set up under the integration points is 1 integration point. And .integrate is priced like that as well. So it comes with core with 5 integration points. And then for any additional integration points, you can purchase that. We've got it in a single, a 5 integration point bundle and a 10 integration point bundle, and obviously those costs become a little bit cheaper in the bundles for each, and works on a scale. Okay, then the last thing we have is data mappings, and this is where we want to set up anything that we might want to use in order to manipulate or to massage the data before integrating it. So let's say, for example, we've got a third-party product that's running. The guys don't really use locations in there. They use a specific department, but our GL is set up to do integrations based off of account number, and it's consolidated with the location. Then we can set up a mapping table basically to say that if this department is selected, always use it maps to this GL account, and then you can use that information inside of your integration query to do mappings between your integration points. Okay. All right. Also, some of the enhancements we're looking at that will also be coming out with that is within this local data and across the board. Look, historically, integrations are only managed by one user in an organization. It's usually one person that administers the integration, and they check it on like a daily basis or a weekly basis, make sure everything's still running according to plan. But we have had a few requests now from customers where they actually want to have multiple users be able to log in and have some securities around who can do what within the system. That's also part of what's coming out in closer to winter. Okay, then that's it basically from system settings. I think the next thing we'll look at is some custom processing. So what we've had in the past as well is in some cases where we have got customers, they don't want the integration to happen automatically or directly or one after the other. They basically want to batch it, for example. So we can set up custom screens. At the moment, if you do require a custom screen, we would still develop that, but it would then be housed inside of the custom processing option. So, for example, we have a customer, they don't want the month end to automatically integrate everything. They want to set dates, and the system must then go and fetch all the information from their third-party system and show it to them, and they can then select which items they want to integrate with a kickoff. And that's basically what the screen does. So you would select a from and a to date, and you give it a batch description. And from an integration perspective, we would then go and look at all the data that they want to integrate between those dates, and we would use that as this batch description. However, as we mentioned, .integrate was written so that consultants will be able to manage integrations and without the need of developers. And that's the whole idea behind .integrate, is that we don't want to have you looking for developers or outsourcing developers in order to meet your customers' integration needs. It should be as simple as a consultant should be able to implement integrations. So also what's going to be coming out in the next release, closer to winter, is these custom screens. There will be a form designer that a consultant can then use to set up these forms to use within the integrations as well. Okay. All right, then let's quickly have a look at our integration management. So this is basically what we use to just check all our integrations. So if we look at success, for example, once we select the successful ones, this will show us all the transactions that happened. So the type would just be the description that we gave the integration point. The transaction number would be the actual transaction number that was then created within the Sage system or inside of the ERP, and what the response was. And then obviously we give our XML data so that you can see how it was built up when it was sent via the Sage APIs. From a Sage perspective, we don't really use the web REST APIs. We've just found in our experience, the Sage Web API sometimes doesn't have all the functionality we need. So we basically expose a Web API REST layer for Sage. But when we do our actual integrations, we go via the Advantage APIs, which are on the COM layer, because that just gives us more flexibility and more functionality. Okay. Users can also see any transactions that fail to integrate. And as you can see here, we would always return the error message that we receive from 300, or from 200. So for example, if a fiscal period is locked and it fails to integrate, it will come and lie here. The system will also send out an email to the user that's set up as the admin user, the email that was assigned there. So if anything fails to integrate, an end user will be notified that this has failed to integrate. You need to action it. So let's say it was something like a fiscal period that was locked. A user would then go into 300, unlock that fiscal period, select it here, for example, and then decide to take an action of reintegrating it. Okay. So they can then say they want to reintegrate this transaction, send it on, and the system will then try and reintegrate it again. So it also helps with troubleshooting errors. Usually, if there's something like a fiscal period, that's pretty simple to resolve. In some cases, for example, in this case, or let's say a customer was placed on hold and we're not integrating to that customer anymore. We actually want to cancel that order. That can also be done. Or let's say something that has come through from integration. This happens sometimes. If we have an API set up and a third-party product sends us data, sometimes they send us incorrect data and it fails to integrate, and we just want to remove those. Then we can say we just want to remove it. It won't do another integration for it. Okay. Then the other two we can look at from a integration type is anything that's processing. Processing usually will be empty, but in some cases, if you're doing like a large batch, then it will show that this is still busy processing. Then you'll be able to see, okay, there's something that's creating a large batch and it's adding to that batch, so it's still under processing. And then obviously removed will just show anything that has been removed or marked as do not integrate. And this just allows you to have full visibility and complete audit trails on all integrations that goes through the system. Okay. All right, and then that's basically .integrate in a nutshell. Okay. All right, so let's go back to our first example that we were talking about and that we were looking at. Okay, so now let's fast forward 2 years. Travis Rusks contacts you with a new request. For marketing purposes, they now want to start tracking the email addresses of every customer who places an order online. Instead of scrambling for a developer or overhauling a custom integration, .integrate lets you make that change in minutes. let us show you just how easy it is to future-proof your client's business. All right, so for this demo, we're going to have Trevor just show you how to change the integration. So basically, from a 300 perspective, oh no, this is Lion Brands. So let's say we're consuming that email address that's being sent from the web store, and we're keeping it currently in our table in .integrate, and the table is called ORD-HDR, which stands for order header. And we want to integrate that into 300, which is Lion Brands, and we want to send it to the FOB point on the sales order. So we would just select the email, and we will call it whatever the column is named in 300. So in 300's table, the FOB point, the column name is called FOB, and that is in the ORDH1 table. So we will know that we just need to call it that. From a 200 perspective, we want to write it to the message line. Okay, so here we'll just select for that integration query. We want to write this to the message line 1. Okay. So once we've made that change, we have now effectively updated the integrations. And just like that, thanks to Trevor's efforts, Trevor's Rusks is now future-proofed with no additional development time, no custom built scripts, just a few seconds, and the reporting capabilities are instantly upgraded. So as you can see from Trevor's side, he's just showing that sales order. And here we can see that email address has now come over into the FOB point. Okay. All right. So this is exactly what .integrate is built for. Making your job easier, your clients happier, and your business more profitable. Your clients are evolving, their systems should too. With .integrate, you're not just keeping up, you're staying ahead. So if you have more questions or want to see this in action for your specific user case, let's have a chat at our booth or contact one of our sales representatives directly. Thank you.